Have you ever looked at your life and thought, this is it? This is the happiness I've been fighting for. The kind of peace that feels like a warm blanket on a cold night. I had that. I built that life, brick by careful brick, with a man I believed was my soulmate. His name was Mark, and for 5 years, I lived inside the beautiful, perfect snow globe he helped me create. We had the cozy home, the shared dreams whispered in the dark, the future that was so bright it almost hurt to look at. I trusted him with every broken piece of me that I'd let him put back together. But what I didn't know was that the entire time he was holding a secret so massive, so devastating, that it wasn't just a lie. It was a wrecking ball, poised and ready to swing. And the day it did, it shattered my entire world. I remember the day I met Mark. It was at a friend's birthday party, one of those crowded, noisy events I normally would have left early. But then I saw him, standing by the window, looking a little lost, a little out of place, just like me. We started talking and it was easy. It was like finding a missing part of myself I never knew was gone. He was charming, but not in a slick way. He was thoughtful. He remembered the little things. My favorite coffee order, the song that made me cry, the way I needed 5 minutes of silence after a long day just to decompress. He made me feel seen. And in a world where everyone is just scrolling past each other, feeling seen is the most powerful drug in the world. We built a life. We got a dog, a golden retriever named Sunny, because he said I brought sunshine into his life. We talked about marriage, about kids, about growing old in a house by the lake. We were a team, or at least I thought we were. I had no reason to doubt him. Why would I? He was my best friend. He was my person. But then the cracks started to appear, so small at first. I almost convinced myself I was imagining them. A phone call he would take in another room, muttering quietly. A new password on his laptop. A sudden, unexplained business trip that came out of nowhere. When I asked him about it, he'd just smile that easy smile of his, kiss my forehead, and tell me not to worry. He'd say, "It's just work, baby. You know how stressful it's been." And I wanted to believe him. So I did. I swallowed my doubts like bitter pills, telling myself I was being paranoid, that I was sabotaging my own happiness. But the universe has a way of forcing the truth into the light. And for me, it wasn't a loud, dramatic confrontation. It was a quiet, ordinary Tuesday afternoon. He was at work. I was working from home. And I needed to find an old tax document he said was on his laptop. He'd given me the password years ago, and I'd never had a reason to use it. I typed it in, my fingers clicking against the keys, completely unaware that with every letter, I was walking towards the edge of a cliff. The desktop loaded, and there it was, a single folder, sitting right in the middle of the screen. A folder with a name that made my blood run cold. A name that wasn't mine. The folder was named Emma. My name is Sarah. For a moment, my brain just short-circuited. It couldn't process it. Emma? Who was Emma? Maybe it was a work project, a client, but it was sitting there, right next to folders labeled Vacation and Financials. It felt personal. My heart started thumping, a slow, heavy drumbeat of dread in my chest. "This is wrong," a voice in my head whispered. "You should close this. You should wait for him to explain." But my hand, it had a mind of its own. The cursor hovered over the folder. One click, that's all it would take. One click to either confirm my worst fears or put them to rest. I took a deep, shaky breath, and I clicked. The folder opened to reveal a collection of documents and photographs. I clicked on the first picture, and the air left my lungs. It was Mark, his arm wrapped around a woman with blonde hair, smiling at a restaurant I knew well. It was our restaurant, the one where we celebrated our anniversaries. The date on the file was from just 2 months ago, the same week he told me he was at a team-building retreat. I felt like I was falling. I clicked through more. Pictures of them hiking. A selfie in a car I didn't recognize. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely control the mouse. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a life, a parallel life he was living. How long? How long had this been going on? Then I saw the document, a PDF file labeled Lease Agreement. I opened it. It was a rental agreement for an apartment on the other side of town. The tenants, Mark and Emma Reynolds. The lease start date, over a year and a half ago. A year and a half. He had been living a double life for a year and a half. The business trips, the late nights, it all came crashing down on me. They weren't work. They were this. He had another home, with another woman. But the worst was yet to come. I saw another document, this one from a local hospital. My blood went cold. It was a sonogram, an ultrasound image, and at the top, the patient's name, Emma Reynolds, and the field for the partner's name, the father. It was filled in. It was Mark's name. He wasn't just having an affair. He was going to have a child. The world tilted. I stumbled back from the desk, my hand flying to my mouth. I felt like I was going to be sick. The room was spinning. The man I loved, the man I was planning a future with, had a whole other family. The lies weren't just lies. They were the foundation of an entirely different existence. He had betrayed me in the most profound way possible. He hadn't just broken my heart. He had taken the reality I thought we shared and revealed it to be a house of cards, flimsy and fake. I heard the front door open. "Honey, I'm home!" His voice, so familiar, so loving, echoed through the house. It was the voice that had comforted me through my father's illness, the voice that had told me he loved me every single day for 5 years. And now, it felt like the most terrifying sound I had ever heard. I slammed the laptop shut, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I had to pull myself together. I couldn't let him see that I knew. Not yet. The shock was so overwhelming, it was like an out-of-body experience. I watched myself walk out of the office, paste a smile on my face, and greet him as he hung up his coat. "Hey, how was your day?" he asked, leaning in to kiss me. I flinched. I couldn't help it. "You okay?" he asked, his brow furrowed with what looked like genuine concern. The audacity of it. The sheer breathtaking performance he was putting on. "Yeah, just a headache," I managed to whisper, turning away so he wouldn't see the tears threatening to spill over. That night, as he slept soundly beside me, I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling. The weight of his betrayal was a physical pressure on my chest. Every memory, every happy moment was now tainted, poisoned by this new truth. That vacation to Hawaii, he was probably texting her the whole time. That weekend he helped his mom move, he was probably setting up a nursery. I felt like a fool, the biggest fool on the planet. How could I not have seen it? The signs were all there. But love makes you blind. It makes you make excuses. It makes you believe the beautiful lie because the truth is too ugly to face. For the next week, I moved through my life like a ghost. I went to work. I talked to friends. I cooked dinner. All while this massive, dark secret was screaming inside my head. I was studying him now, watching the master liar at work. I saw how easily the lies slipped from his lips, how he could look my best friend in the eye and talk about his hectic work schedule without a flicker of guilt. He was a professional, and I had been his willing audience. Anger started to simmer beneath the shock and grief. A cold, hard, focused anger. This wasn't just about me anymore. There was another woman involved. A woman named Emma who believed she was building a life with him. A woman who was carrying his child. Did she know about me? Was she a victim in this, just like I was? Or was she a willing participant? I had to know. The need for the whole, unvarnished truth became an obsession. I couldn't just confront him. He would lie, he would manipulate, he would spin a story to make it seem like a mistake, a temporary lapse in judgment. I needed proof. Irrefutable, undeniable proof. And I needed to know who Emma was. My revenge, in that moment, began to take shape. It wasn't about violence. It wasn't about screaming or throwing things. It was about the one thing he thought he could control. The narrative. He thought he held all the secrets. He thought he could keep his two worlds separate forever. My revenge would be to tear down that wall, to expose his perfect double life to the one thing he seemed to fear most. The light. My plan was simple. I would find Emma, and I would tell her everything. Investigating your own partner is a surreal and deeply painful experience. It feels like you're betraying the trust you had, even though they're the one who shattered it first. But I had no choice. I needed to find Emma. I started with what I had. The lease agreement had her full name and the apartment address. A simple online search for Emma Reynolds gave me thousands of results. But I had a location. I cross-referenced the name with the city, and I found her. She was on LinkedIn. She was a graphic designer. She had a smiling profile picture. She looked nice, normal. My heart ached. She didn't look like a villain. She looked like me. I found her Instagram account. It was private, but I could see her profile picture. And in it, I saw something that made my stomach drop. It was a photo of her and Mark, his face turned away from the camera. But I knew it was him. I knew the jacket he was wearing. I'd bought it for him. The caption read, "My forever, always." Posted just 3 weeks ago. This confirmed it. She didn't know. She was living in the same beautiful, fragile snow globe I had just escaped from. She was building a nursery and dreaming of a future with a man who was, at that very moment, sleeping in my bed. The next part was the hardest. I had to gather undeniable proof. I became a shadow in my own life. I discreetly went through his old phone bills, correlating his business trips with calls and texts to a specific number. Emma's number. I found hidden credit card statements for an account I never knew existed, showing payments for furniture, for prenatal classes, for the apartment. I took photos of everything with my phone. I created a digital folder of my own, labeled The Truth. It was filling up fast. The most chilling discovery was yet to come. Using the password he still didn't know I had, I accessed an old cloud storage account he'd forgotten about. And there I found emails. Years of emails between him and Emma. I scrolled through them, my heart breaking for both of us. They were love letters. They were planning their lives together. He was telling her the same dreams he was telling me. The house by the lake. He had promised it to her, too. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a master architect of fictional futures. He was building castles in the air for two different women, knowing only one could ever stand. I had everything I needed. A timeline of the entire affair, from the first flirtatious email to the sonogram image. The financial records, the photos. It was a complete, documented history of his double life. The weight of the evidence was crushing, but it also gave me a strange sense of power. For the first time since I'd opened that folder, I wasn't a victim. I was a collector of truth. And soon, I would be its messenger. I decided to meet Emma in person. A text or a phone call felt too cold, too brutal for the bomb I was about to drop. I found the cafe near her apartment. A cute, sunny place that looked like it belonged in a romantic comedy. I chose a table in the back. My hands were ice cold. I was about to destroy this woman's world. I kept telling myself I was saving her from a far greater pain down the line, but it didn't make me feel any better. I saw her walk in. She was even more visibly pregnant in person. She looked around, a slight, hopeful smile on her face. She didn't know who she was meeting. I had contacted her from a temporary email account, saying I had important information about Mark that concerned her. She looked nervous, but trusting. I stood up and waved slightly. She came over, her smile faltering. "Hi, are you Sarah?" she asked. "I am," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Please, sit down." She sat, her eyes wide and confused. "I don't understand. The email said this was about Mark? Is he okay?" I took a deep breath. This was it. The point of no return. "Emma," I began, my voice shaking. "This is going to be the hardest conversation of your life, and I am so sorry that I have to be the one to tell you this. But you deserve to know the truth. Mark, he isn't who you think he is." I slid my phone across the table. On the screen was a photo of me and Mark from our vacation 6 months ago. His arm around me, both of us beaming. Her face went pale. She stared at it, uncomprehending. Who? Who is that? She whispered. That's me, I said softly. And that's Mark, my fiancé. We've been together for 5 years. The color drained from her face completely. She looked from the phone to me, her eyes filling with a dawning, horrified understanding. No, that's not possible. You're lying. I wish I was, I said, my own tears starting to fall. I found out about you a few weeks ago. The apartment, the pregnancy, everything. I then walked her through it. I showed her the evidence, piece by devastating piece. The lease agreement with both our names. The financial records showing he was supporting 2 households. The emails I'd found showing he was telling her the same stories, making the same promises. I showed her a picture of our home, of our dog, Sunny. She broke down. It was a quiet, gut-wrenching sob that shook her entire body. She wasn't just crying about a cheating boyfriend. She was crying for the future that had just evaporated, for the father of her child who was a phantom. Her pain mirrored my own so perfectly it was terrifying. We sat in that cafe for 2 hours, 2 strangers bound together by the treachery of one man. We shared our stories, the little lies, the missed birthdays, the work emergencies. The puzzle pieces fit together perfectly, creating a picture of a man we both realized we never truly knew. Her shock slowly turned to a fiery, righteous anger. What are we going to do? She asked, her voice hard. I looked at her, my partner in this wreckage. We're going to make sure he can't lie to anyone ever again. United by betrayal, Emma and I formed an unlikely alliance. We weren't friends. How could we be? But we were co-conspirators in a mission for justice. Our plan was simple, precise, and devastating. We would expose him to everyone, not with a screaming match in private, but with a quiet, public unveiling of the truth he had worked so hard to hide. We identified every single person in his life who mattered, everyone he had lied to, his family, who adored me and had no idea Emma existed, his friends, who had celebrated our engagements and milestones, his colleagues, who respected him as a dependable family man, and our own separate circles of friends and family. We decided to use email. It was direct. It allowed us to lay out the entire story with evidence, and it would hit everyone in his life at the exact same moment, giving him no time to spin a cover story. We crafted the email together. It was calm, factual, and utterly damning. We started with, "You are receiving this email because you are someone Mark, last name, knows and trusts. It is with heavy hearts that we, Sarah and Emma, must share the truth about his double life." We didn't use angry language. We didn't call him names. We simply presented the timeline, supported by the photographs, the financial documents, the sonogram, and the parallel life he had built. The final piece of the plan was the delivery. We chose a day and time we knew would be maximally impactful. A Sunday evening, right before the start of the work week. He would be at home with me, relaxed, completely unaware that his 2 separate worlds were seconds away from colliding in the most public way imaginable. The days leading up to it were agonizing. Living with him, pretending everything was normal, was a special kind of hell. Every kind word from him felt like a knife twist. Every time he talked about our future, I had to bite my tongue to keep from screaming. I was an actor in the final act of a play whose script I had already burned. The night before the send, I couldn't sleep. I looked at him sleeping, his face peaceful and innocent. For a fleeting moment, I wondered if I was a monster. Was this too cruel? Was I destroying him? But then I remembered the sonogram on his laptop. I remembered Emma's shattered face in the cafe. I remembered the 5 years of my life I had given to a lie. This wasn't cruelty. This was consequence. He had made his choices. He just never expected to have to answer for them. Sunday evening arrived. Mark was on the couch, watching a game. He was happy, content. He thought he had gotten away with it. He thought he was the smartest man in the world. "Hey, honey, can you come here for a sec?" I called from the home office. "There's something on the computer you need to see." He sighed, got up, and ambled into the room, a smile on his face. "What's up?" I pointed to the screen. On it was the draft of the email, addressed to hundreds of people with the subject line, "The truth about Mark, last name." His smile vanished. His face went slack with confusion, then slowly, horribly, drained of all color as he started to read. The silence in that room was deafening. He read the first few lines of the email, his eyes widening in sheer, unadulterated terror. He scrolled, his hand trembling on the mouse, seeing the photos, the documents, the entire architecture of his deception laid bare for the world to see. What is this?" he whispered, his voice strangled. "It's the truth, Mark," I said, my voice calm and steady, though my knees were shaking. "I've scheduled it to send to everyone in 5 minutes. Your mom, your dad, your boss, your friends, and Emma's family, too. Everyone." The look on his face was something I will never forget. It was the look of a man watching his entire life explode in slow motion. It wasn't just anger. It was panic. It was the complete and total collapse of his carefully constructed reality. "You can't!" he shouted, lunging for the keyboard. "Sarah, please! You'll ruin me!" "You ruined yourself," I said, stepping between him and the computer. "You did this the first time you lied to me. The first time you lied to her." He begged. He actually got down on his knees and begged. He promised to end it with Emma. He promised he would change. He said it was a mistake, a moment of weakness that spiraled out of control. But the words were empty now. I had seen the evidence. I had lived the lie. There were no more words that could save him. The 5-minute timer on the screen counted down. 10, 9, 8. He was crying now. Real, desperate tears. He was finally feeling a fraction of the pain he had caused. 3, 2, 1. The email whooshed away into the digital ether. Sent, what followed was a storm. His phone started ringing instantly. First his mother, her voice shrill and hysterical on the speakerphone. Then his father, yelling, disappointed. Then his brother. Then his best friend. Text messages poured in, a waterfall of shock and condemnation. He sat on the floor of the office, his head in his hands, as his reputation, his relationships, his entire identity was dismantled in real time. I picked up my packed bag, which had been waiting by the door. I looked at him one last time, this broken man surrounded by the ruins of his own making. Goodbye, Mark. I walked out of that house and never looked back. I later found out that he lost his job. The company didn't want the scandal. His family was furious and ashamed. His friends abandoned him. And in exposing him to the world, Emma and I had taken away his power. He could no longer hide. He could no longer manipulate. He was just a man, alone, facing the consequences of his own actions. Revenge, they say, is a dish best served cold. And mine was icy. In the weeks and months that followed, I was left to pick up the pieces of my own life. There was a profound grief, not just for the relationship, but for the person I used to be, the trusting, hopeful woman who believed in fairy tales. That woman was gone. In her place was someone harder, wiser, and more cautious. My revenge wasn't about hurting him for the sake of it. It was about reclaiming power. For so long, he held all the cards. He held the secrets. He controlled the narrative. By exposing him, I took that power back. I seized control of the story and told it myself, with evidence and without malice. I gave the truth to everyone he had deceived, allowing them to make their own judgments. I sometimes wonder if what I did was right. Was it cruel to expose him so publicly? Perhaps. But what was the alternative? Let him continue his double life? Let Emma raise a child with a man who was a professional deceiver? Let me live a lie? Sometimes the moral path isn't the nice one. Sometimes justice isn't gentle. It's messy and painful and loud. The real moral of this story isn't about the brilliance of the plan or the shock of the reveal. It's about the cost of lies. Mark's web of lies didn't just break two hearts. It shattered entire families, friendships, and his own future. A single lie, nurtured and grown, can become a monster that eventually destroys everything in its path. And my role? I was the one who finally stopped feeding the monster. I forced the truth into the open, and in the harsh light of day, the monster withered and died. I'm in a better place now. I'm healing. I'm learning to trust again, slowly. Emma and I don't speak anymore. Our connection was too painful, a constant reminder of the trauma we shared. But I heard she's doing okay. She's focusing on her baby and building a new life, a real one, based on truth. As for Mark, his shocking secret is no longer a secret. It's public knowledge. It's his legacy. He lied, and I told everyone. And in doing so, I didn't just get revenge. I set myself and an innocent woman free. And sometimes, freedom is the greatest justice of all. If you take one thing from my story, let it be this: your truth is your power. No one can take it from you. But if you ever find yourself in the dark, living a lie someone else created for you, don't be afraid to turn on the light. Expose it. The truth may be painful, but it's a clean pain. It's a pain that heals. A lie. A lie is a cancer that only grows.